tissues, in which we are going to study about the animal tissues and plant tissues. But in details, we are going to study about the animal tissues today, which is from the chapter number 17, that is Introduction to Biotechnology of Science 2. So let's begin with it. Now let's recall. First is which components bring about important processes in the living organism, and second question is which is the smallest structural and functional unit of the body of living organisms. So let's recall these two questions and let's find out the answer of it. Now as you can see here, this is the structure of cell. Now all living organisms are made up of small units, and this unit is called as what? Cells. So all human body are made up of cells. Cell is the basic unit of human body. All functions of living organisms are carried out by these minute cells. All functions of these living organisms are carried out by this structure known as cell, which is the minute in size. We have already studied we have already studied in our previous years that on the basis of cellular structure, cells are being classified as unicellular and multicellular organisms. As you can see in the picture, cells can be classified as unicellular and the multicellular cells. Unicellulars are present in unicellular organisms and multicellular cells are present in multicellular organisms. But when there are all the functions are carried out by a single cell, or do all the cells collectively carried out all the functions? Now what do you think? Let us find out. Now in unicellular organisms like amoeba, as we can see in the diagram, this is the unicellular organism known as amoeba. The amoeba is having a single cell, and this is the single cell organelles carried out the function with the help of single cell only, like movement, digestion, ingestion, respiration and excretion. But in multicellular organism, like living organisms are mostly multicellular. In such organisms, group of cells come together to carry out the function. To to understand, let us take the consideration of this order. Many letters makes a word. As we know, many letters makes a word. These words makes the sentence. Now many sentences together makes the chapter. As we know, letters combine to form the words, and words combine to form the sentence, and sentences forms the chapter, and chapter forms the textbook. So this is the order by which the textbook has been formed. So like that, we can combine it, like we're having a single unit cell. Group of cells forms the tissues, group of tissues forms the organs, and group of organ forms the organ system, and organ system form the organisms. So this is the order by which the organisms is being made up of a single, which is the cell is the single unit, basic unit of human body. There is a single cell, group of cells are known as tissues, and group of tissues are known as organs, and group of organ are known as organ system, and organ system together form the organisms. Now here is the definition of the tissues, which is very important. A group of cells similar in structure and carrying out specialized function are called as tissue. A group of cells similar in structures and carrying out specialized function are called as tissues. Now cells are segregated into groups, and each group performs a particular function. Cells are segregated into groups, and each group performs a particular functions. Now let's see which are the functions has been carried out by the group of the cells. Like here muscle, the muscular cells forms the group by which we can pull our hand. Here in the other picture we can see a group of vascular tissues are there which do the which do the function of conduction of water or conduction of food. Now here are the two types of tissues are present. There are two types of tissue. One is simple tissue and other is complex tissue. There are two types of tissue. One is complex tissue and other is simple tissue. Now simple tissue consists of only one type of cell. For example, epithelial tissue in animals and meristematic tissue in plants. While complex tissue are made up of more than one type of cell. For example, blood in animals, xylem and phloem in plants. So tissues are divided into two types, simple tissue and the complex tissue. Simple tissues are made up of only one type of cells, which are mostly epithelial tissue in animals and meristematic tissue in plants. And complex tissue are made up of more than one type of cells, mostly blood in animals and xylem and phloem in plants. Now, are the structure and functions of the bodies of plants and animals the same? Let's find out the answer for it. Now you can see here the structural difference between the plants and the animal. Plants are having leaf, stem, root, but in human body there is a head, neck, and hand. Such structure are present. Here we can see the tip of the stem and tip of the root. These are the this will grow continuously. Now why they are growing continuously? To attain the limited height, because the meristematic cells are present at the tip of stem and the tip of the roots, which will continuously divide and redivide to grow the to make the growth in the plants. Here, the animals have to move from one place to another or migrate to another place in search of food, shelter, and mate. Hence, they need more energy, and most of the tissues are living. Now, as compared to plants, plants are stationary, so they do not require much of energy like the animals require. As animals have to move from one place to another in search of food, shelter, and finding the mate, so they require the more energy than the plants. We can see here the cells of the plants and here are the cells of the human body. These are the external organs of the animal tissue, head, neck, hands and legs. And here are the internal organs, heart, blood vessels and intestine. Now they are having the protection for the internal organs, that the protection layer for the internal organ like respiratory tube, lungs and special muscles, they are covered with the layer of the cells. Now, do you know which layer cover these cells? Here also we can see here the blood flow. Here is the kidney. Here is the function the kidney has been performed for the purification of the blood. So these are the type of animal tissue: the epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and the nervous tissue. These are the types of animal tissues, which are those epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and the nervous tissue. Now you can see here, these are the epithelial tissue. We can see here, these are the epithelial tissue. One by one, we are going to study the animal tissue. The first one we are going to study is epithelial tissue. You can see here the squarish shaped epithelial tissues. Now, have you observed the skin of the back of your hand with the help of a magnifying lens? Do you see the closely packed squarish and pentagonal shapes? You can see here. These are the pentagonal squarish shapes. Epithelial tissues are present throughout the body on the skin, as skin is made up of epithelial tissue. There is a continuous sheath of the squarish cell below which the fibrous basement membranes are present. So disease causing microbe first to enter the body, they have to enter through the skin, which is made up of the epithelial tissue. So before entering inside the body of the human body, the microorganisms has to penetrate the epithelial tissue. Then only they can enter in the body. So the function of the epithelial tissue is to give the protection. Now here the epithelial tissues are present in the skin, then the lining of the mouth, lining of the blood vessels, then lung alveoli. The function of the all body systems of our body are different. Hence, it is necessary that they remain separate from each other. Now, who will keep the different organs of our body separate from each other? Of course, the epithelial tissues, the lining of the epithelial tissues will separate them from one organ to another organ. Now, what keeps the various organs and organ systems separate from each other? As we have said, that epithelial tissues in the form of continuous layer act as a barrier to keep two organs separate from each other, and thus different organs and organ systems remain separate from each other and carry out their function smoothly. Now, there are the structures of the cells of the epithelial tissues, and the types of layers they form are: one is simple squamous epithelium. Then there is a stratified squamous epithelium, glandular epithelium, columnar epithelium, ciliated columnar epithelium, and cuboidal epithelium. So these are the types of epithelial tissues according to the structure of the cell. First is simple squamous epithelium, then stratified squamous epithelium, glandular epithelium, columnar epithelium, ciliated columnar epithelium, and the cuboidal epithelium. Now, let's see one by one. First, we are going to see the simple squamous tissue. You can see the shape of the cell. It is squarish. You can see here they are squarish in shape. This is the simple squamous tissue. The structure is thin, fine, flat, cells forming a delicate lining. Now, where the cells are present, they are present at the lining of the mouth, esophagus, blood vessels, and lungs alveoli. And their function is transportation of substances through selectively permeable membrane. Now, what is a selectively permeable membrane? Selectively permeable membrane means what? They will allow the specific particles only to enter them. Otherwise, those are not allowed, will not enter through that layer. So there is a restriction to enter the particles from that layer. So the first is simple squamous epithelium. The structure is thin, fine, flat cells forming a delicate lining, and they are located at mouth, esophagus, blood vessels, lungs, alveoli, and their function is the transportation of substances through the selectively permeable membranes. The second is stratified squamous tissue. The structure of it is cells are arranged to form a pattern of layers. We can see here the layer, they are arranged like layers, and the outer layer of the skin is made up of stratified squamous tissue, and the function of it is to prevent the wear and tear of the skin. Now next is glandular tissue. The structure of it is folding of the cells to form a multicellular glands. You can see here the gland, the cells are folded to form a shape of gland, and inner layer it is located at the inner layer of the skin, and function of it is secretion of sweat, oil, and mucus. As we know, there is a mucus gland, sweat gland under the skin. So these cells are of this type, that is glandular tissue. They form the group of cells form the glandular tissue. Then second is columnar tissue. The structure of the cells are tall and arranged like pillars. You can see here they are arranged like pillars. They are located in the inner lining of the intestine and of the alimentary canal. Function of it is secretion of digestive enzymes, absorption of nutrients from the digested food. Then the next is ciliated epithelium tissue, ciliated tissue. In ciliated columnar epithelium, structure of the cells are cells have hair-like projection. Cells have hair-like projection in, and it is located in the respiratory tract, so that they will clearing the air while means if clearing the respiratory tract by moving the mucus and air forward. Means while taking the oxygen inside, the air will be clarified or purified by the hair-like projections which are present. They are known as the cilia. The next is cuboidal epithelium. Cuboidal epithelium, the shape of it is cube-shaped cells. They are located in the inner lining of kidney tubules and ducts of the salivary gland, and the function is absorption of the useful material from the urine and secretion of the saliva. So this is arranged in the tabular form what we have studied. The simple squamous tissue, let's revise with it. Simple squamous tissue, the structure is thin, fine, flat cells forming a delicate lining, and they are located in the mouth, esophagus, blood vessels, lungs, alveoli, and the function is transportation of substances through selectively permeable membrane. Next is stratified squamous tissue. The cells are arranged to form a pattern of layers, and they are present on the outer layer of the skin, and they are preventing the wear and tear of the skin. Next is glandular epithelium. Fold, the structure is folding of the cells to form a multicellular gland. They are present in the inner layer of the skin, and the function is secretion of sweat, oil, and mucus. Next is columnar epithelium. These cells are tall and arranged like pillars. They are present in the inner lining of the intestine and of the alimentary canal, and the function is secretion of digestive enzymes, absorption of nutrients from the digested food. The next is ciliated columnar epithelium. As the name itself suggests, cilia, they are having the cilia, hair-like projection, which helps in which are located in the inner side of the respiratory tract, which do the function of clearing the respiratory tract by moving the mucus and air forward. And the last is cuboidal epithelium, which is cube-shaped cells. They are present in the inner lining of kidney tubules and ducts of the salivary gland, and the function is absorption of the useful materials from the urine, secretion, and of saliva. Now we will see a short video for it.
Tissues. In unicellular organisms like amoeba, all the functions are carried out by the organelles of the cell. But most living organisms are multicellular. In such organisms, group of cells come together to carry out the various functions. To understand this, let us take into consideration this order. Many letters together make a word. Many words make a sentence. Many sentences together make a chapter. Many such chapters make a textbook. Thus, we know that the smallest unit of this order is the letter. Similarly, the body structure also follows a particular order. We know about cells, which are the smallest unit of living organisms, and also about organs. A group of cells similar in structure and carrying out specialized functions are called as a tissue. Multicellular organisms have lakhs of cells. These cells are segregated into groups, and each group performs a particular function. For example, due to the contraction and relaxation of muscles, we make movements. While in plants, due to the presence of vascular or conducting tissue, water and food are transported to the different parts of the plant body. Due to the specialized structure of cells and division of work, all the functions of the body take place efficiently. Now let us understand more about tissues. There are two types of tissues: simple tissues and complex tissues. Simple tissues consist of only one type of cells. For example, epithelial tissues in animals and meristematic tissue, while complex tissues are made up of more than one type of cells. For example, blood in animals and xylem and phloem in plants. The body structure and functions of plants and animals are not the same. There are structural and functional differences in them. Since plants are stationary, most of their tissues carry out the function of support. Some plant tissues are made up of dead tissues. Such tissues do not require much maintenance. Growth of the plant is restricted to the tips of the root and the stem, where dividing tissues are present. Animals have to move from one place to another or migrate to another place in search of food, shelter, and a mate. Hence, they need more energy and most of their tissues are living. The growth of animals is uniform all over their body. In their bodies, they do not have a demarcation of dividing and non-dividing region. In other words, different types of tissues function in plants and animals. Let us first study animal tissues in detail. Animal tissues. The human body is made up of different organs. Some organs are located on the outside of the body. They are called external organs. These organs can be easily seen. But there are some organs that are situated inside the body. They are called internal organs. These organs are not seen from outside. For example, the heart, blood vessels, intestines. Many internal organs in our body work together. For example, the lungs, respiratory tubes, and the contraction and relaxation of the special muscles help us to breathe. Do you know? Blood is also a kind of tissue. Blood flows and carries various substances from one part of the body to another. For example, it carries oxygen and nutrients to all the cells. It also collects wastes from all the parts of the body and carries them to the liver and kidney for disposal. Different organs carry out different functions. On the basis of the functions they perform, tissues are classified into different types. The main types of animal tissues are epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. Of these, the epithelial tissue is a simple animal tissue, while the connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue are complex tissues. Let us now understand about simple tissues. Simple tissues. Simple animal tissue consists of one type of cells. Group of such cells are called as epithelial tissues. Let us understand about epithelial tissues in detail. Epithelial tissue. We know that the skin is the protective covering of our body. If we observe the outside of our palm with the help of a magnifying glass, we can see tightly packed squares and pentagons. These are the epithelial tissues. The protective covering of the animal body is called the epithelial tissue. The cells of this tissue are tightly packed and form a continuous sheet. All epithelium is usually separated from the underlying tissue by an extracellular fibrous basement membrane. Any substance, before entering the body, has to first face the epithelial tissue. The skin, the lining of the mouth, lining of the blood vessels, lung alveoli are made of epithelial tissue. The functions of all the body systems of our body are different. Hence, it is necessary that they remain separate from each other. Do you know how this is possible? There are epithelial tissues between the different organs of the body and the organ systems. The epithelial tissues in the form of a continuous layer act as a barrier to keep two organs separate from each other. Thus, the different organs and the organ systems remain separate from each other and can carry out their functions smoothly. There are epithelial tissues between the different organs and organ systems. Let us now study the different types of epithelial tissues. On the basis of the structures of the cells of the epithelial tissues and the types of layers they form, they can be of different types. With the help of this table, let us understand the structure of the epithelial tissue, their location, and functions. Simple squamous epithelium. The cells of this tissue are extremely thin, fine, and flat, and form a delicate lining. These cells are situated in the lining of the mouth, esophagus, blood vessels, lung alveoli. It performs the function of transportation of substances through selectively permeable membrane. Stratified squamous epithelium. The cells are arranged to form a pattern of layers. They are found in the outer layer of the skin. It protects the body organs, prevents wear and tear of the skin. Granular epithelium. Sometimes a portion of the epithelial tissue folds upward to form a multicellular gland. This structure is called glandular epithelium. These tissues are situated in the inner layers of the skin. They perform the function of secreting substances like sweat, oil, mucus from the skin. Columnar epithelium. The cells of this tissue are tall and arranged like pillars. They are situated in the inner lining of the intestine of the alimentary canal. They secrete the digestive enzymes and perform the function of absorption of nutrients from the digested food. Ciliated columnar epithelium. Cells of these tissues have hair-like projections. They are found in the respiratory tract. Due to the movement of the cilia, the mucus and the air is pushed forward to clear the respiratory tract. Cuboidal epithelium. The cells of these tissues are cube-shaped. Lining of kidney tubules and ducts of the salivary glands have cuboidal epithelium. It helps in the absorption of useful material from the urine before it is passed out. It helps in the secretion of saliva. The types of epithelial tissues that we have studied so far consist of only one type of cells. We know that simple tissues consist of one type of cells. Hence, epithelial tissues are simple tissues. After studying about simple tissues, let us now study about complex tissues. Complex tissues. If we
Okay, now let's study about the complex tissues. Now complex tissues are of three types. First is connective tissue, second is muscular tissue, and third is the nervous tissue. Now let's study one by one. So let's begin with the connective tissues. The tissue which connect or tissue which join different parts of the body are called the connective tissues. Cells in this type of tissue are loosely arranged with a ground substance in the free space in between. The ground substance are may be said liquid like water or jelly like. The types of connective tissues are blood, lymph, areolar tissue, adipose tissue, cartilage, bones, tendons, and ligaments. So these are all the connective tissues, which are those blood, lymph, areolar, adipose, cartilage, bones, tendons, and ligaments. These are all the type of connective tissues. And what is the meaning of connective tissues? The tissues which join different parts of the body are called the connective tissues, and cells in this type of tissues are loosely arranged with a ground substance in the free spaces in between. The ground substance may be solid, liquid like water, or jelly like. So see one by one. First one is blood. The structure of it is plasma contains red blood corpuscles, white blood corpuscles, and blood platelets. The location of these cells are throughout the body. The function of it are the function of this cell transportation of oxygen, as we know that blood molecule will combine with the oxygen to form the oxyhemoglobin, which will transport from throughout the each and every part of the body. So transportation of oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and excretory products is the function of blood. The next one is lymph. The structure of lymph is this is the fluid flowing from the blood vessel. Location of it is surrounding the cells of the body, and the function is to protect the body from the transmission of disease. So this lymph will prevent a body or protect the body from entering the diseases from outside. The next one is areolar tissue. The structure of it is different types of loose cells, jelly-like matrix and flexible fibers. Location is between the skin and the muscles and around the blood vessels. As we can see in the picture, it is present between the skin and the muscles and around the blood vessels, and it helps in the repair of tissues and supports the internal organs. The next is adipose tissue. The structure is cells of this tissue are filled with fat globules. We can see here the structure is filled with the fat globule, and the location is found beneath the skin and between the internal organs, and it acts as a insulator to supply oxygen and also to supply energy. It acts as an insulator, and the function is they supply the energy. Then the next is cartilage. They are fibrous, flexible cells and jelly-like matrix. They are present at the nose, ears, larynx, and trachea, and their function is to smoothen the bone surface. The next is bones. The matrix composed of calcium and phosphate and embedded with cells named osteocytes. Location is entire body with a specific structure. As we know, the bones are present in entire body, and the function is support all the organs, helps in the movement. Their the function is to support all the organs and also helps in the movement of the body. The next is tendons and ligaments. The structure is tendons fibrous strong, have limited flexibility, ligaments very flexible and strong, and the location is in the joints, and the function is tendons connect muscles to bones and ligaments connects to bones. The tendons connect muscles to bones and ligaments connect to bones. So this is all about the connective tissues. First one is blood, then lymph, areolar tissue, adipose tissue, cartilage, bones, tendons, and ligaments. Now, next we will move to the next complex tissue, that is the muscular tissue. So, these are the types of muscles: the striated muscle, unstriated muscle and cardiac muscle. So let's find out the difference between them and let's study one by one. The first one is stratified muscles. The structure of stratified muscle is long, cylindrical, unbranched, and multinucleate cells. As we can see here, they are multinucleate. There are many nucleus are present. Then location of it is muscles show alternate dark and light bands or striation. You can see here there is a light and dark bands are present on it. Since they are attached to bones, they are called skeletal muscles. As they are attached to our bones, they are known as what? Skeletal muscles. The function of striated muscles are movements of our hand and legs, running, talking are movements which are carried out by these muscles and they are called as voluntary muscles. Now, why they are known as voluntary muscles? Because all these activity are our control. These activities are we are doing ourselves, means willingly we are doing, so they are known as the voluntary muscles. Why they are known as the voluntary muscles? Because these all movements are under our control. As we if we want to run, then only we can run. If we have to make the movement of our hand and legs, then only we can make the movement. So they are under our control, so they are known as the voluntary muscles. So striated muscles, they are long, cylindrical, unbranched and multinucleate cells, and they show alternate dark and light bands or striation. Since they are attached to the bones, they are known as the skeletal muscles, and the function is to carry out the movement voluntarily. Then next is unstriated muscle. The structure of unstriated muscle is spindle shape. We can see here it is a spindle shape, tapering at the ends and small uninucleate. There is only one nucleus is present, and the location is they do not have any striation. You cannot find any light or dark band. Throughout the color is same and not connected to bones. They are not connected to bones, but the striated muscles are connected to bones, so they are known as the skeletal muscles. But these unstriated muscles are not connected to bones. Function of unstriated muscles, this type of muscles are opening and closing of our eyelids, movement of food in the alimentary canal, muscles which carry out the contraction and relaxation of the blood vessels. Then the next is cardiac muscle. The structure is cylindrical, branch. We can see here they are branch and uninucleate. There is a single nucleus is present in cell. Location is dark and light bands or striation on the muscles. You can see a light and dark bands on these muscles. And function is control all the movements of the heart muscles. It controls the movement of the heart muscles. Now let's see the video for it.
We observe a permanent slide of blood under a compound microscope, we can see a mixture of cells of different types, colors, and shapes. Thus, we can say that blood is a type of complex tissue. Complex tissue is made up of more than one type of cells. They work together. We have already mentioned that complex tissues are of three types: connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. Let us now understand about complex tissues in detail. Connective tissue. The tissues which connect the different parts of the body to each other are called connective tissues. The cells of this tissue are not joined to each other, and there are matrices in their vacant places. The matrix may be jelly-like, fluid, dense, or rigid. Blood, lymph, areolar tissue, adipose tissue, cartilage, bone, and tendons, and also ligaments are types of connective tissues. Let us understand the different types of connective tissues with the help of a table. Blood. It is a fluid connective tissue. It has a fluid matrix called plasma, in which red blood corpuscles, white blood corpuscles, and blood platelets are suspended. Blood flows throughout the body by the closed circulatory system. The blood transports oxygen, nutrients from the food, hormones, and excretory products. Lymph. This is the fluid flowing from the blood vessels. Red blood corpuscles are absent in them. Lymph is present surrounding the cells. The lymph protects the body from the transmission of diseases. Areolar tissue. This tissue is composed of different types of loose cells. It consists of jelly-like matrix and flexible fibers. It is found in between the skin and muscles around the blood vessels. It helps in the repair of the tissues and supports the internal organs. Adipose tissue. The cells in this tissue are filled with fat globules. This tissue is found beneath the skin and between the internal organs. Due to the storage of fat, it acts as an insulator and provides energy. Do you know why thin persons feel colder than fat persons? In fat persons, there is more storage of fat compared to thin persons. Due to more storage of fats, there is more insulation. In thin persons, as there is less fat compared to fat persons, thin persons feel more cold. Cartilage. Cells present in this tissue are fibrous, flexible, and have a jelly-like matrix in them. These tissues are found in the nose, ears, trachea, and larynx. The cartilage smoothens the bone surface and softens the joints. Bone. This tissue is made up of a matrix composed of calcium phosphate, and there are cells called osteocytes embedded in them. Bones are present all over the body with a specific structure. Bones support all the organs and help in movement. Bones are strong but are non-flexible, hence they cannot be bent. Tendons and ligaments. Tendons are fibrous and very strong, but have limited flexibility, while ligaments are very elastic with considerable strength. Tendons and ligaments are present in the joints. Tendons connect the muscles to the bones, while ligaments connect the bones. After understanding about connective tissues, now let us understand about muscular tissues. Muscular tissue. Let us perform an activity to understand about muscular tissues. Activity. Let us bend our arm at the elbow. What do you see? Do you see any difference in the muscles present above and below the upper arm? When the arm is bent at the elbow, the muscles present on the upper side of the upper arm contract, while those in the lower side relax. When we straighten our arm, the muscles present on the upper side relax and the muscles on the lower side contract. The muscles revert to their original state. In the same way, when we bend our leg at the knee and then straighten it, the muscles in the thigh and calf contract and relax. Why does contraction and relaxation take place? There are specific proteins present in the muscles, which are called as contractile proteins. Muscular fibers and muscular tissues are made from contractile proteins. The muscular tissues are made up of long cells. Muscles show movement due to the contraction and relaxation of these proteins. Thus, muscles are contractile tissues. Let us now study the different types of muscular tissues. Muscular tissues are of three types: striated muscles, unstriated muscles, muscles and cardiac muscles. Let us understand types of these muscles, the shapes of their cells, their structure and function with the help of this table. Striated muscles. The cells in these tissues are long, cylindrical, unbranched, and multinucleate. Under the microscope, these muscles show alternate light and dark bands or striations. Hence, they are called as striated muscles. As these muscles are connected to the bones, they are called skeletal muscles. Movements of hands and legs, running, talking are movements that are carried out by these muscles. The movements of these muscles take place by our will. Hence, they are called voluntary muscles. There are some movements of our muscles that do not take place by our will. Let us learn more about them. Unstriated muscles. The cells of these tissues are spindle-shaped, small, and uninucleate. These muscles do not have striations, hence they are called as unstriated muscles. These muscles are not connected to bones. The movements of these muscles are not controlled by our will, hence they are called as involuntary muscles. The opening and closing of our eyelids, the movement of food in the alimentary canal, and the contraction and relaxation of the blood vessels take place by these muscles. Cardiac muscles. The cells in these tissues are cylindrical, branched, and uninucleate. There are dark and light bands or striations on these muscles. The heart is made of these muscles. Since we do not have control on the movements of these muscles, hence they are also called as involuntary muscles. The muscles of the heart show rhythmic contraction and relaxation throughout the life. In other words, all the movements of the muscles of the heart are controlled by these muscles. After learning about the different types of muscular
Okay, now let's move on to the last type of muscle, that is the nervous tissue. Now, nervous tissue enables us to respond to stimuli like touch, sound, odor, color, etc. And cells of the nervous tissues are specially made to become excited and to conduct that excitation from one part to body to the another part of the body. The cell body, which contains the cytoplasm and the nucleus, is the main part of each nerve cell. Numerous small branch fibers called dendrites are arises. As we can see here, these are the dendrites arises from the cell body. One of the fibers, however, is extremely long. It is called as the axon. As we can see here, one of the fiber is extended. This is known as the axon. The length of a nerve cell. The length of the nerve cell is how much it is. It is approximately 1 meter, and many nerve cells are bound together with the help of connective tissue to form a nerve. Nervous tissue is present in the brain, spinal cord, and the network of nerves spread all through the body. In most animals, action in response to a stimulus occurs due to the integrated functioning of nervous tissue and the muscular tissue. So this nervous tissue is made up of nerve cells. It is the unit of nervous system. They are having the dendrites. As we can see here, many projections are there. They are known as the dendrites. This is the main cell body. this extended structure is known as the axon, and here in the center we can see here nucleus, and here is surrounded by the nucleus is surrounded by the cytoplasm. They do the function of conducting the stimulus, the message which they are getting the message from the surrounding and how to act. That message will be sent to the brain, and brain will again send message to the through the nervous system how to react. Like when we are touching the hot cup of tea, what we do, as soon as we touch, we feel the hotness of that cup, we will take away our hand from the cup, so that is what the we are responding to the stimulus. So this is all carried out by the nervous tissue. So we have studied today about the animal tissues. In that we have studied about the simple tissue and the complex tissue. So I hope you have understood the today's lecture. So we will stop here. Thanks for joining all of you. Mayur sir, we stop here.
हेलो टीचर, यस टीचर।
हाँ sir.
चलेगा, वाइंड अप करते हैं टीचर।
Yes sir.
ओके, थैंक यू।